Hey, welcome CS240. In this video here today, we're going to show you how to set up chess phase 0. We're going to start off by going to the directory where we created our repository in the last assignment that you were given. Here you can see I've got a chess directory and it's initiated with GitHub, so I'm all connected there. The next thing I want to do is bring up the instruction that's up on the instruction website. So I'm going to navigate here to the GitHub instruction website and go here to the chess link where all the different phases of the chess program are explained. Each one of the phases comes with starter code and also getting started directions that tell you how to use that starter code. And then once you've got all set up, you're ready to go into the requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the getting started and navigate down, and it's telling me to pull the chess.zip file from the starter code directory. Now, if I've cloned the instruction repository, then all those files will be on my hard drive and I can just copy them directly over. But in this case, I'm going to just download it directly from GitHub by coming here and pushing this file button to download that raw file. Okay, that's done. We're good there. The next instructions then tell me to unzip that file into my chess repository directory. Now, if you're running on Linux or Mac, you can just run the unzip command directly from your console terminal program. If you're running on Windows, then you're probably going to have to go to the Windows Explorer and double-click on that file and it will unzip it. Note, however, that if you do that in Windows, it will actually insert a directory on top of the files that are actually there. So you actually have chess within your chess repository directory. So you got to move all those files out of there and put them into the root chess repository that you created. In the end, your directory should look like this. So you just have your repository, your GitHub repository there, and then the files that were included in the chess starter code listed there, client, server, shared, and then the IntelliJ IDEA project directory. And of course, your .git one, which is representing that's actually your GitHub repository. So let's go ahead and do that now. I know that if I do a listing on my downloads for chess, that it's actually there. So I can go ahead and unzip that file. And then I do my listing here, and you can see that my structure looks pretty much like what I was showing you there. If I list all the files, you'll actually see that the IntelliJ project is there, and also that I am a Git repository. Okay, I'm all set. And this is the state that you want to be in, not only to start off your development work, but also the state that you want to be in when you take the exam. You're going to create a new directory, unzip that file into there, and then you'll be in this state and you'll be ready to go to take the exam. So let's go ahead and open up IntelliJ now. I'm going to do that by going here and then typing IntelliJ and opening it up. And you should be greeted the first time you run it with this dialog that tells you to create a new project or open or whatever. If you haven't yet installed IntelliJ, then go follow the instructions to actually go and do that. It's pretty easy. Just make sure that you install the community version. You can install the ultimate version if you want, but you're going to have to go through the interaction to actually justify that you're a student so that you can get that for free. And for this class, there's no real benefit for doing the ultimate version. Those are all mostly enterprise features that you will never use in this class. So I'm going to go ahead and not create a new project, but I'm going to open an existing project. So I'm clicking on open. This is going to display your Finder dialog. I'm going to go off to my chess directory that I have here. This is my chess repository that I created, and go ahead and push open. Might prompt you like, hey, I don't know about this directory. And I'm like, yeah, just trust everything in here. I'm not going to install something in my desktop directory that I don't trust. So we're good to go. That's going to bring open the IntelliJ IDE at this point. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see all this. And maybe even zoom in a little bit. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see it on the display. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there's 3 different directories. Each one of these represent the modules that are in the structure of our chess program. There's a chess client. This is the terminal program that the user is going to use to interact with and play a game of chess. That's going to communicate over the network to your server, which is represented here. That's going to handle the HTTP communication coming in, do all the business logic for actually making moves and playing the game, and also store things off into your database. And then there's this third module, which is your shared module. This one contains all this shared logic that both your client and your server need. In this case, we're going to implement the moves or the rules of chess within the shared module, and then both your server and your client will have a copy of that code to actually play a game of chess. So your job right now is to actually implement the moves of chess. If we go back over to our instructions, we're done with like the setup here. Oh, one more note, that if you get this prompt when you open up your program that you should execute the Maven scripts. Those Maven scripts are used by our automated testing program to build your code and run the test. We're not going to cover Maven until the end of this class, and so you don't want to use that to both build and execute your code when you're developing at this point in time. You just want to use the natural default IntelliJ build and execution functionality. So if you get this little dialog down in the right hand corner, just go ahead and push skip and don't worry about it again. Okay, so we're done with setting up the getting started stuff, and we've pulled in our starter code that we have for phase one. Now let's go look at our requirements here. So if we scroll down here, you'll see there's an explanation of the 3 different modules that I just already gave you there. There's a diagram of what that actually looks like within the code base, a client application, a server application, and then a shared module to share code across there. And then there's a description of the different classes that are there within the chess program. We implemented basically a skeleton of all of these classes within the chess program so that you wouldn't have to set them up initially. But every one of these functions that's mentioned here for the different classes throws an exception when you call them. So there's no like meat to the actual code itself. You're going to have to write each one of those functions yourself to actually implement how you make moves within chess. But the basic idea is that you got a game and you can make moves and know whether or not you won using the game class. There's a board which allows you to like add and get pieces off the board. There's a chess piece which tells what the color and the type of the piece is. And then you can make a move which has a starting position and ending position. Each one of those positions has a row and a column on the chessboard to actually execute that. And that's the basic structure that you're going to use to play the game of chess. This goes and talks about all what those classes do here if you want to know all the detail of that. And your job for phase 0 is actually to just make all the tests that we've given you successfully pass. And when they do pass, that means that you've successfully implemented the rules of chess within the game. All right, so the recommended development process to get started is to start with the test that is in the bishop's move test and the bishop move until edge test. And this test is shown here. If we go to the shared code, which is where we're implementing things, go down to the test directory and we open up the chess test. And to the chess move test, we'll see here's the bishop move test. Pop this open and here's your first test that you're actually seeing. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see the whole test. So this test has 3 different parts to it. It's got a starting board position here. And each one of these little spaces represent an empty space on the chessboard. There's 8 squares going up in our rows and 8 squares going across in our columns. So the moves are described in 1-based nomenclature. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows up, and 1, 2, 3, 4 rows to the right is our actual bishop piece. This is saying the piece that we want to move for our test is in row number 5, column number 4. So we're going to move this bishop right here. And then the end positions are the expected end positions that your code is going to return for actually showing what this bishop can actually do. So it's expecting that it can move to any of the diagonal spaces across here where the bishop can go on the board. And those are represented by these things here. So row number 6, column number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, column number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bishop should be able to move to this square. And that's what that's saying here. So when you actually run this test successfully, it'll say, yep, you returned all of these moves, and that matches what the moves that were expected, and this test will be done. So the first thing to do is you can go and look around in the main source code here. These are all those stub classes that I discussed earlier. Like we can go into the chess board here and see that there is a chess board. It's got an empty constructor. It's got these methods here. that are part of that interface, and all of them are returning this runtime exception not implemented yet. So your job is to replace all these things with code that actually makes those tests run. I should note that all of the names of these classes that you're provided, and also the functions that are given for them, and the parameters to them, and the signatures of the functions, you can't change those because the tests are expecting those things. But you can add new functions, and you can add new classes to it. In fact, you'll probably have to do that in order to successfully implement the full game of chess. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to do that one test that we talked about. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to go ahead and push this debug button and let that test run. And once it's done running, you can see I hit a not implemented exception, which is totally expected. So the test was going, it tried to do the move bishops test, tried to validate the moves, tried to load the board, tried to add a piece to it, and it hit that code here that shows that it's not implemented. Okay, so I got to go implement this. So this is in the chess board. I don't actually have any sort of data structure that represents what the board is, so I don't have anything to actually add a piece to. So the first thing I want to do is add this here. So I'm going to do private, and then I'm going to do something like a chess piece, and I'm going to do a two-dimensional array, and we're going to call this like squares or something like that, is equal to new chess piece, and this has to be 8 by 8. There we go. So now I've allocated my data structure for my chessboard, and all I have to do is come down here and actually implement putting that piece that was provided me into that square. So if I do squares, and then I reference the position, so position, and I'm going to do the row first, and then I'm going to do position, I'm going to represent the column into my two-dimensional array, and then I'm going to set that equal to the piece that I was actually given. There you go. So now I've successfully implemented adding that piece to it. So let's see if our test agrees with us that we've done it right. So I'm going to come here and just go ahead and debug that again. And when that's done, I'm still getting the not implemented exception. But this time it's a different error, so it's on get row. So if I click here, now I'm in the chess position code. I initiated this with some row and column, and then I'm trying to get what that row is, and it just throws an exception. So the problem is I'm not actually storing this thing here. So I can use IntelliJ to come here, and I can say I can bind the constructor parameters to fields within the class, and it'll just write some code for me to bind the row and the column parameters to the constructor to some fields of the class. Automatically sticks those in there, like that they're final so that they can't be changed. That makes the object immutable. And then we come down here to the get row, and I just have to implement this. So now I'm going to return the row. And if I look down, there's also a get column. This one's also going to be problematic, so rather than running the test and throwing the exception, I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively strike this thing and go ahead and return the column. There we go. So now I've implemented my chess position. I can pass in my row and columns, store those in a field property for the class, and then return them using the getters for that class. Okay, now let's see how we're doing. Let's run our tests again. Okay, I'm still getting not implemented exceptions. First one's always the worst. It gets easier after this. So let's go ahead and see what's happening here. I'm trying to validate the moves, and I call get piece on the chessboard. So in my chessboard, I implemented that I was tracking what the squares were in my data structure, and I added the pieces on here, but now I'm trying to get the piece so that they can actually do something with it. So I'm not actually returning the piece given in that position. So I can fix that by going to my squares, going to the position, and remember it's row, and then we're going to do column again, position, column, and I'm going to return that chess piece. Get rid of that, and that should be good. Wonder if I'm going to get the reset board? Probably not, so I'm not going to implement that just yet. Let's go ahead and run her one more time, hopefully. All right, one more. Piece moves. Let's go ahead and go here. Oh, well, that actually makes sense. So now I'm actually to the point where I'm calling in to a chess piece. So I've got my bishop, and I'm trying to figure out what moves it can make. So it's calling in to try and get the moves for that. Well, I haven't implemented that yet, and I don't want to take the time in this video to actually implement that. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to return let's just return a new array list. Array list. So it's just going to be an empty list. So I'm telling it no moves for this piece. on this given board in this given position. Now I'm feeling good. Let's see what it does this time. And there we go. Now we've got a different error. We're not hitting the not implemented exceptions anymore. That means we've implemented all the code that the test is expecting to run, but I'm actually getting an error saying that the wrong moves were returned. I was expecting certain moves here, and I didn't get them. And instead, I got like an empty array of them. You can improve the result of this test if you go out to implement the toString method on the chess moves class, so that instead of giving the address of the thing that's returned, you'd actually see some sort of like chess notation or representation of it. That'll make it easier for you to actually implement these tests. But you're off and running. You got everything you need to do and able to go implement phase 0 within there. Remember, when you run the programming exam, you're going to do the exact same thing that we just did in this video. You're going to create a new directory. You're going to unzip that chess file, start Examity to actually run the exam for yourself, and then you're going to very quickly, because you've done this like 2 or 3 times before, implement all the moves of chess and pass it off and move on to phase number 1. Wish you the best.